Hello. Normally I deal in just facts, evidence, presenting history accounts and documented instances. But in this case, I had it put to me by one Vincent Soda. If you don't believe in God, then how do you know what is right and wrong? Without the Ten Commandments, then you have no idea what is right or wrong. Your next video should explain what right and wrong is without using any of the Ten Commandments, and say if it is or not. If you can, then I believe you, but you won't. Well, I will accept the challenge. I will explain my system of personal morality, which by no means should be taken as a reflection on atheist morality in general. It is my personal view. And not only will I not support it with any of the Ten Commandments, I will put it in direct opposition to the Ten Commandments in order to determine which one is the more effective moral system. On the left, our first contestant, the Ten Commandments. Coming in at roughly 3,000 years old, we have 1. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. 2. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. 3. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. 4. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 5. Honor thy mother and father. 6. Thou shalt not kill. 7. Thou shalt not commit adultery. 8. Thou shalt not steal. 9. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. 10. Thou shalt not covet. In the other corner, I give you my personal one commandment. Of course, this commandment has only been issued by myself to myself, but hey, if you like it, go for it. My one commandment: take no action nor inaction that causes more harm than it prevents. Okay, our first step. We are going to wipe out 4 commandments right off the bat. Thou shalt not have other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee graven images. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, and remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. These 4 commandments have nothing to do with morality in the first place. All they are is about praising the God of the Bible. They are not moral decisions. They are not relevant to this discussion. Out they go. Imagine, if you will, a young boy. His father is heavily into alcoholism, and on every 2-3 nights, the father takes out his rage and beats his son. Bruises, an occasional sprained wrist, stitches. According to the 5th commandment, honor thy mother and father, this child should be obedient and endure this. According to my take on morality, take no action or inaction that causes more harm than it prevents, this child should be seeing the police. It is not about honoring the mother and father. It is about taking an action that would prevent harm. A man has been sought by the police. He has been breaking into homes, stealing, killing the owners. In the middle of the night, the owners of one house wake up to hear a sound in the living room. Somebody goes for a gun to investigate. When they find the intruder also has a gun. The two are facing each other. The homeowner, according to the 6th commandment, cannot shoot because it would violate the commandment, thou shalt not kill. According to the morality code I live by, the homeowner should take the shot because it prevents future harm being incurred from this person onto others. It is a case of self-defense. For the next one, we need to understand the definition of adultery. Adultery is voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and a person who is not his or her spouse. Now, we have a married couple. The woman is fertile, the man is not. They desire a child. They could go to a clinic in order to work out that type of a solution, but the two of them consider that too impersonal. They want a child that is born of love. They decide that they are going to ask a friend of theirs to impregnate the wife for them so that there can be a relationship of some form at least leading to this birth. According to the 7th commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery. This is considered immoral. According to My morality: take no action or inaction that causes more harm than it prevents. There is nothing wrong with this, and it would actually be a generous gesture by the person being asked if they decide to agree with it. An out-of-work couple are trying to take care of their children. They've run out of money. The children are going hungry. They decide they are going to steal some food. This was a hard decision to reach, but their children are just too hungry and something has to be done. According to the 8th commandment, thou shalt not steal, the parents taking the food for their child are committing a sin. According to the morality system I follow, they are trying to prevent a greater harm by doing the lesser harm. Now, especially if when they're working again they go back and replace or pay for what they've taken, it's even more acceptable in my view. But even if they don't, we're looking at preventing more harm than the actual action of taking the food would have been. Oh, this is an easy one. No, sir. My neighbors are not Jewish. 9th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. My morality: action was taken that prevented more harm than the action itself did. To covet, to yearn to possess or have. Personally, I would love the motorcycle in this picture. It's my goal as a retirement thing to get an old Indian motorcycle and rebuild it. I covet this motorcycle, or at least one like it. That desire gives me something to look forward to in the future, gives me a reason to set aside a little money out of my paycheck here and there in order to be more fiscally responsible. Desire, coveting, is the driving force behind the economy in the United States. Supply and demand. If you have no coveting whatsoever, no desire for any goods, you have no demand. It's that simple. There is no harm done by desiring something. Harm can only be done by taking action on those desires. And then one has to decide, is the action going to cause harm or not? So, let's tally up the final scores here. On the side of the 10 Commandments, we have 4 tossed out the window for being irrelevant to morality, and none of the others able to stand up. The final score: my morality 6 points, 10 Commandments 0. So how is it possible that my simple one rule can basically trounce every commandment on the list? Well, it's pretty simple, really. The Bible, the 10 Commandments, boil everything down to black and white. They don't take into account shades of gray. Morality cannot be absolute. It must be situational. It must be able to adapt to situations. It has to be flexible. This is not the case with religion. And as such, religion cannot adapt to morality. This is why most followers of the religion do not follow the morality taught in their religions. They realize there are shades of gray. They adapt to those shades of gray. They don't derive their morality from their holy scriptures. So, the question still remains, where does this morality come from? The simple answer is books, movies, discussions with people, how I want to be treated, different factors coming in together. Perhaps one of the highest points in this, though, one of the biggest influences, is actually reading fiction. In the fiction books, you have a main character. In a bad one, everything's cut and dry and easy. But in a really good story, the main character has to wrestle with choices on a constant basis. And eventually you pick up a theme. You realize that what the hero has to do is based on what prevents the most harm and does the least harm. From Batman to the Lord of the Rings to the Iliad, it's always a question of what's right, what's wrong, based purely on how much harm is caused versus prevented.